Hello everybody. Haven't been around for a while, but I've got some time now to do some repairs. And this has come from the repair cafe, and someone passed it on to me, and it's a JVC RD-D70 CD player, DAB FM radio with Bluetooth and auxiliary audio in, and a USB charging point on the front. I'm not sure if that's a USB audio interface as well. Who cares really? And of course we've got the Bluetooth logo down here. Not bad thing. Comes in a wooden cabinet. I haven't bored you with the disassembly. I've got straight down into the guts of her, but there are a number of dodgy screws up here which you need a very long screwdriver, because a wooden box slides over this, and to get it apart I also had to unsolder the ground wire from the antenna and take the antenna wire off the back of the antenna on the back panel, otherwise the back panel just gets in the way. This is the back panel, you can see, look, it's just a panel with the main sleeve going through, some base ports on it and an antenna. Right, so yeah, long screwdriver required, dodgy to take apart, but straightforward, obvious, and you'll need a long posi screwdriver to reach through the whole case. And if it's magnetized, you'll have a much more fun time putting your screws back in, because otherwise you're in for a bit of a struggle. You know, they'll be dropping off all over the place. So yeah, it reminds me of a product that was made in the 70s really. It's kind of a wooden box, you know, and lots of connectors and plugs, and single-sided circuit board down here with the old jumper wires everywhere, millions of connectors and the old goo holding things down. So very cheap. Couldn't find a schematic anywhere for it. Anyway, customer says no sound, and it's plugged in. If I just turn it on, be careful. Look, the mains power supply on there, the switch mode power supply here. So that's the live bit. So I'm not going to be touching that, but we'll review it in a moment if it's not working. So if we turn it on from the mains, put the power on, contact, and yeah, you don't know if you can see that there's a dim display, and if I press the power button, there you go, you can see it now. It says DAB radio. I'll zoom in on that bit for you. And it's scanning the DAB radio, but it's not going to pick anything up because there is no antenna attached. So if I hit the mode button, I'm going to click the mode button, FM radio, turn the volume up, nothing there. And I confirm this, so I actually fed an aux in signal in there, slid it to aux with the mode button, and nothing there either. So there's no sound from either channel. Okay, so if we just turn it off now, underneath there's a CD mechanism, which I must be careful not to bash about a bit. So if we turn it off and zoom out the camera, there we go. There's the main gubbins of her. And I guess the first thing we should be doing is check to see if we've got any voltage on the power supply. Okay, so we need to check that there's DC voltage coming out of the power supply on the side. So if we look on the motherboard, you can see the umbilical cable there. Yeah, so you can see the wires there on the connector. We've got DC in and ground, two ground wires, and then plus 5 volts. They kindly labelled it for us, and if we just measure the 5 volts, I've got a meter here, I'm going to read them out to you. So 5.26 volts, and on the amplifier voltage we have 10.13 volts. So there's voltage there. 10 seems a bit low, but it's only 7 watts a channel, and they are 4 ohm speakers, so there's plenty of voltage to get the power output for this small electronic speaker. Now, so yeah, we've got DC power coming in. So immediately, if you look at the amplifier section on here, we've got a amplifier chip that's marked with CD7266CZ, 7266CZ, which is a Chinese copy of a TDA 7266, I think. So we have a Chinese amplifier chip, and the question is there voltage on it, and is it receiving a audio signal from anywhere? So first thing to do is to get the data sheet up and have a look and see what the pins are assigned to, i.e. the pin out of the chip, and then probe around and see if there's a few voltages there. Okay, so here's the two devices. On the left here we've got, on the left of the screen here, we have the RD-D70CZ Chinese data sheet being translated. There's the pin out there. This is the TDA7622 from ST Microelectronics. They're a mainstream quality manufacturer. Packages are the same size. You can see they're a slight different shape. This one's got a metal tab heatsink, whereas this one's only got 2 screw holes. I don't think that's going to cause a problem. We'll just drill a hole in the heatsink to mount it. But if you look at actual pins themselves, all the pin labels are all the same. Signal ground, power ground, standby, mute, no connection, in 1, VCC, out 1 minus, out 1 minus, out 1 minus. They're all the same. So it is pin compatible, and I've whizzed through the data sheet and all the voltages are the same. So if you've got this the RD-D70CZ Chinese part, you can replace it with the good old Western part, although probably made in China, but a slightly higher quality version of the chip made by ST Microelectronics. Now, question is it faulty? That's the big question. So let's poke about a bit and see if we can see if it's actually faulty or not. Okay, we're going to run down these pins. The first thing to do is to check the actual supply voltage, make sure that this actual output chip, this is the, sorry, 7266, TDA7266 chip. Let's just run down the pins. So first thing, there's no sound, the speakers are plugged in. Yes, they are. Just checking. And so yeah, so what we've got power supply is actually on pin 13, which is that pin there. Turn the power on, helps. Hit the power button on the front. Yeah, got 10 volts on pin 13, which is good. Now let's just check the output pins to the actual speakers and see what they've got on them. One has got nothing on it, which is probably right. 2 has got nothing on it, it's got 12 millivolts. And the other 2 output pins are 14 and 15 at the other end. So 14, careful when you probe these things because you don't want to short them out, and mind your hand on the power supply so it's live. 12 millivolts, 12 millivolts. So nothing going on. We've got power, nothing on the speakers. Right, so let's check the input line, shall we? The audio input line for channel 1, which is left, I think. Well, it depends which way you wind them up, isn't it? Because it's how you wire the amplifier. But pin 1 is pin 4. Sorry, input 1 is pin 4. So let's check what we've got on pin 4. 12 millivolts, not very much. Let's just check the actual supply voltage. Yeah, the meter's still working, that's good. Pin 2 is pin 12. Let's check pin 12. See what that's doing for us. 12 millivolts. I wonder if standby and mute, pins 6 and 7, I wonder if they're high. Standby and mute, pins 6 and 7. I think I read in the data sheet the threshold is roughly about 1 to 2 volts. So if it's below 1 to 2 volts, then we should have sound. This should be enabled. Standby and mute, so 7 and 6. 6 is low, and the standby pin 7 is also low. Now that is strange. So it suggests that either the chip has blown up, or if for some reason it's been left in standby. Amplifier is turned on. So where does pin 7 go on the schematic? Standby and mute, power ground, no connection into pin 12. Let's just check pin 12 again to make sure we haven't got anything strange going on there on the second input. Okay. And on 9, the signal ground. 7, 8, 9. The signal ground is 12 millivolts. So I wonder if the 0 volt pins actually got 0 volts on it. Pin 8. Let's check pin 8, which is 0 volts. It is 0 volts. So apart from power, everything's pretty dead on this chip. So the question is, have we got any audio coming in to pin 1, for example? Pin 6 is mute, pin 6 is low, 26 millivolts, and pin 7 is enable, which is also low at 12 millivolts, 0.012 volts DC. Now, so that says to me that the thing is being held in standby, or the chip is blown up. So let's have a look and see what components are connected to the standby pin and see whether it goes to the micro or not, or where the standby pin goes to. Standby, just to recap, is pin 7. So we've got pin 7 along here, which is the 1, 2, 3, the 4th one along from that end. So if I turn the power off, turn it over, actually let's take the board out. So let's unplug all the plugs, take the board out. Power is off, I checked. Pull all these plugs out carefully, especially this ribbon cable for the display at the front. Gently rock it, pulling all the while. You get one chance with these to take them out and one chance to put them back in again. And if they rip, you've had it. Or if you damage the contacts, you've had it. And you've got a failed repair, and the repair cafe customer will go off with their tail between their legs. Yeah, the power supply is a captive header soldered into a header. It doesn't unplug, so unplug it from the power supply. Pull connectors out. All the CD drive connector out, and we should be free. Here we are. So let's just push that to one side for the moment. Let's have a look at this thing. Right, so we said standby was pin 7, which is the 4th one along on that side. So if we go up here, it's that pin there is standby. Right, so let's see where it goes. See where she goes. There you go. So we've got the back of the TDA chip here. We've got pin 8 is power ground, and standby is pin 7. So let's just check to see if there's any shorts anywhere. But there's something strange about this pin, because this is the standby pin here, 1, 2, 3, that one. Put it on continuity, you can hear it beep, and you can see that is shorted to ground. That is a 0, it's basically 0 ohms on my meter. And then the standby line goes to here. So there's a capacitor decoupling the standby to ground there. Goes to this point here, and then there's a wire link to there. Okay, that's a wire link underneath. I checked that on the board, and then it comes across to this resistor here and doesn't go anywhere else. So it goes through a resistor. So the standby pin is being driven through a resistor. Now the value on that resistor is, can't find my eyeglass, so I'm gonna have to read it out. Looks like 125 or 123. 12 kilo ohm resistor. So it goes through a 12 kilo ohm resistor, but it's still showing as being shorted to ground. Okay, there. Now you can have a really close look at that. Perhaps you can see where it's all scratched about, as though there might have been a fault in production. So what I'm going to do is turn it over, and I'm just going to do snip the standby line on pin 7. So I'm going to sit. So that's it. I'll cut the device leg on the line on the device just here. So pin 7 is no longer connected to the device. And let's see what we've got on the component now. Right, let's get it in position. Pin 7 to ground. So that was ground, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Now there is no connection to ground on the standby pin. So the standby pin is shorted to ground inside the control electronics on the chip. So at the moment, what we could do is check to see if there's any analog going in. But my history with these chips, we always see problems with the Chinese version. Okay, so a quick recap. We've condemned the actual amplifier chip because even though on the data sheet it says that standby, the thresholds, it doesn't explicitly state whether the standby is or not standby, i.e. it has to be high to enable the amplifier or low to enable the amplifier. And I've read through the application notes for the chip, and it has to be high to activate the amplifier. Now if we look at the data sheet now, you can see it says that at 6 volts the current through the standby pin to ground should be 100 microamps. We have a dead short to ground, which we've isolated the leg of the chip, and the leg on the chip, the standby leg, pin 7 is shorted to ground, so there's a fault on the internal electronics on the amplifier chip. So at this point I'm not going to spend any more time trying to diagnose it. I think it's the amplifier chip. I could be wrong, been wrong before, but I don't want to waste any more time. I just want to take the chip out and replace it with a new chip. Okay, so I don't know how we can get a view of this. I'm tempted just to go along, remove the screws from the chip. If I can find a screwdriver that fits the hole. Remove the 2 screws, holding the chip down, and remember I've got to drill a hole for the heatsink because the replacement chip, which I'll show you in a moment, has got a different style heatsink on it. It's not made of Chinesium. Right, so let's whip this board out again, out of situation.
Tomatoes on it.
Yes, please. Right, so here we are. There's the chip. Screws have been removed. I'm going to take the heatsink off the board because I've got to drill it out. So at the moment I'm just going to remove the heatsink. I'm taking it out at this point really just to make it easier to remove the chip, but I will offer it into position to work to drill and tap the hole to fix the device onto the heatsink using the tab rather than the actual plastic case of the device. Okay, so there's the heatsink there that's come off. Hopefully it's a central hole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like our hole to fix it will be directly in line with this fin, so we'll have to drill down a bit deeper into the fin to get enough penetration, which is what we like, the penetration now and again. So here's the horrible chip. You can see it there. I'm just going to get the snippers and chop that off. Okay, I'm just going to run along and snip these pins. If you want to do it the slow way, be my guest. I like to do things the easy way. Hello, dog. Right, let's bend that back. If you've got a decent soldering iron, it's easier to remove these from the top side of the board, not the underside. Simply by doing this. Hopefully this will work. With some lovely leaded solder. Heat the pin up and then just pull the pin out like that. No trauma to the tracks, no difficulty with your tracking. And you say, I know what I'm doing, but you may know what you're doing, but other people don't. number of boards I see that have had attempted repairs and the tracks have been messed with. So if you can, devices like this, desolder from this side. Obviously make sure your legs don't end up being spread all over the board, because that may cause a problem. So make sure your legs are accounted for. I do that in the pub after I've been drinking, make sure my legs are accounted for before I stand up. Right, okay, so cut the next row. Next row, done. A little bit of solder to get things flowing. Notice I've not put any flux on. I know I'm a sad old man with a flux fixation, but some of you seem to get annoyed by my amount of fluxing I do. So I'm trying to cut back on the flux. I can handle it. I'm using the old multi-core or Loctite multi-core 60 EN alloy, that one there, and the EN's got a very aggressive flux which is great for soldering all sorts of things. A real go-to solder if you've got something difficult to solder, like the back end of an alkaline battery or something like that. This is the bee's knees. It does tend to leave a residue which you don't need to clean off, but it's easily removed with isopropyl alcohol. But yeah, it's my go-to solder. I've used it for years, and I've tried many different types. I can do a review of the different manufacturers and brands, so I've got most of them in the storage cupboard. But the bottom line is, if you want to use unleaded solder, strike a blow. You can still buy it. It flows very well, it fluxes very well, it's just very, very good stuff. There we go. That's our top side. That's where the chip's going to go back in. And then on the back side we'll end up with this situation. Back here somewhere. If I can get to the... There we are. Look at that. Lovely. And now is my time to use some flux. I'm using this as my flux of choice. It's a Kingbo RMA 218, mentioned it before. Not particularly good for your health. It's banned in some areas of the world, but I'm not a habitual user. I can give it up any time. Honestly, I can. Pass the flux, please. A little bit of extra flux on there. These boards are very delicate, so when you're soldering, if you feel like pressing too hard, you shouldn't need to press your soldering on. If you find you have difficulty melting this solder, because this is lead free, and I'm cheating a bit by using leaded solder, but it's easier. I could use unleaded if I wanted to be honest. I'm perfectly capable, but if you have to press hard and it's not melting very well, then it's because your soldering line is probably designed for unleaded solder. Sorry, for leaded solder, which has got a lower melting point. And what you can do is just just put a little bit of EN60 on, or 60 EN should I say, like that. Get her flowing with a little bit of flux on there, and then we use this, which is Kenwick rosin cord. This is about 35 quid, but the Chemtronics one. But my advice is don't buy the stuff off AliExpress or the cheap stuff on eBay, because it's like Corporation toilet paper. If you're old enough to remember Corporation toilet paper, that stuff looked like greaseproof paper they used to have in kids. It was Isol, I think, was the brand. It must have been dirt cheap, and it literally wipe your ass with greaseproof paper, and you end up chasing it around all over the place, and then with a little jobby on top of your head if you weren't careful. Completely useless. So yeah, anyway, avoid cheap ones. Get Multicore or Kenwick or a well-known, or Chemtronics, well-known brand, and then we just gently press on this and hoover the hole. Bit of hole hoovering. let it flow. And can you see, even though I'm being as gentle as I can be, some of these are starting to lift already. Okay, so be careful. Easier to do it the way I've showed you, but you don't have to, because you might say, oh, I know it all. You probably do, and I don't. I'm only a 21-year-old with 40 years experience. Right, okay. So that's all looking pretty good. Zero damage, all nicely desoldered. And how many holes have I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So all my holes have been unblocked. Right, so if you can, get some of the isopropyl alcohol, and yeah, I was going to say don't use your own toothbrush, but I can't even find the wife's toothbrush. Maybe she's taking it back again. Where's it gone? Where's my toothbrush gone? Yeah, look, if you scan that QR code there, you can get the ordering code and find these on AliExpress. They're little brushes. They're about, there's my finger. Aren't they lovely? Little pipe brushes. They're so useful. And I can just put a drop of the old love juice on here, otherwise AKA isopropyl alcohol, and give it a rub-a-dub-dub. There you go. Lovely and clean. There's a little bit of solder there. Is that solder or a Stover print, isn't it, from the PCB legend YP. Right, so what I've got, I'll show you what I've got actually, because I had a bunch of these things, and what I did buy from, you guessed it, AliExpress, for about $2 a piece, out of interest, because these were cheaper than the actual chips from Farnell. I think it's Farnell or Mouser. Farnell, I think. So that's the actual ST chip. Now this was advertised as a TDA7266 design. Pop it out of the bag. There you go. Look at that. And then on there is a version of something. I'm not sure what. Whoops. TDA 7266 Singapore. Can you see the logo, the chip maker's logo on there? Yeah, it says ST on it. Whether it's genuine ST, let's compare it to a real ST chip, shall we? Because this one was £6.80, the one in the bag. This is the genuine ST from Farnell UK. Bum, bum, ba-dum, bum. No, well the printing's not the same. It doesn't say Singapore. It says TDA 726668, so it's got a long code. The batch code isn't an ST code, but it's got ST logo on, which means they had downloaded the ST logo from the website. Yeah, they might be genuine, mightn't they? They might be. It looks like an ST, doesn't it? I'm always very wary when the graphics or the markings on the chip, the ident or the laser printing is different, because whenever I buy things from distribution, they always look like the ones I'm taking out of proper pieces of kit, whereas these ones from AliExpress, let's face it, if you can cheat, and boy do they know how. So on this piece of kit, because it's a respected customer from the Repair Cafe, I'm going to put the proper one in rather than wrestle one out of here. But you can see now for a 7+7 watt amplifier, very few. There's a little volume controller, volume control, speaker connections, and stereo input. It came with a little loom actually somewhere. I lost them probably. But yeah, so that's really it is. Interestingly enough, it has got a heatsink, but I don't think it'll fit on that board. Unless it's dual pin. Well, I don't know if there's a variety of this chip. Would the pin spacing on that one be correct? Oh no, the pin spacing on this one would be even worse. Look at the length of them legs compared to the length of these legs on this piece of crud. Well, you can't see the legs now because I've cut them all off. Oh right, oh god, I've got to do some leg bending. Bend the legs. Okay, well I've got some pin forming to do, haven't I? Because if you look at this, look, my legs are sticking out over 0.1, over 0.1. Yep. So I'm going to get some snooky nose pliers from the garage or from the workshop, and I'll see you when I've got some pliers in my hand. Yeah, I'm not normally much of a bender, but I've done a test bend here. Look, I've bent that one, and that's about the right pitch. That's the thing, that's what I'm going for on the others, but can I get in there? No, I can't. I can't get in there with my bender. Have you seen one of these things? They're really quite good. Well, I'm going to show you this because you deserve it. If I can find something to bend. These I bought these for about £2 off of from AliExpression, and yeah, they're jewellery bending pliers, and you can put the end of it in there like that, and then you can bend it round and round. Look at that. And then you can grab hold of it, and then you can wang it that way, or if you want to, you can bend it a bit the other way. But look at that. And then if you want a bigger bend, you straighten that out. If you want a bigger diameter bend, you go up here somewhere with it. Look, see, it's a variable size bending tool. So simple, and yet I've never owned one until very recently. I wouldn't say it's transformative, but you know, I'm not going to start making jewellery, but it's nice to have to do some bending when you need to. Anyway, that's not going to solve our problem. That was a complete waste of time as far as what you want to hear about, which is a mending of this bloody speaker. So I'm going to straighten them out first, is the way we're going to go. So we're going to do a leg kick. I call this one the river dance manoeuvre, for obvious reasons. Those poor girls must not get some bloody ankle trouble, don't you think? Well, that's slamming and bunking around for no apparent reason, apart from the very small percentage of the population think it's good, probably 0.00001% aficionados. And now I'm going to bend these down one at a time into position like that. You can hear the asthmatic breathing. It's 33 degrees outside and the dog's under my desk. You try concentrate when you've got hot breath on your legs. Hold on a minute, it's my phone. Right, so I got it into the heels, bent the legs, I had to bend both rows of legs back slightly so they would fit, and now we've got the heatsink to go on, so I'll just drop that on there like that, line up the holes underneath correctly, and then on the front we will draw, we've drawn a little circle lining up with where to tap the hole, and you can see that this circle here is going to line up directly with that web, so I've got to drill in far enough for it. I'm going to put a probably just an M3 screw in there, to be honest, because these two holes are now redundant. I shall remove, actually no, it's a live heatsink, so there's no problem with any swarf on those. As long as the device is sitting down flat on the heatsink, we should be golden. So I'm going to go and drill that hole and tap it, and then I'll come back and we'll do the assembly and test it out. Right, I've drilled our hole. Gonna get a bit of the old heatsink compound. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Squish a bit of that on the heatsink. Doesn't need an awful lot, just to zhuzh up what's on there already. That's all going to squish out perfectly in a very satisfying manner when the screw is put in. Legs through the hole again. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to solder these back in with the rod dry. It's really expensive stuff, Alpha Metals 6040, but with no clean flux. Then I don't have to break my toothbrush out again. But you can use either. You can use the 60EN. You can see it's not as easy and workable as the other flux, but if it's pre-soldered on with clean legs and whatever, it works relatively well. It's just not as satisfying. Very little smoke. It's always awkward doing this because my head is miles away from the actual action. All the lights are in the way. Okay, they're all in there, they're all soldered. Give the pins a bit of a trim. Don't think there's anything to foul on, but you never know. Let's make it look a bit neater. The back ones are a bit shorter, so they don't need trimming. Okay, so there she is, she's in position. Okay, so I'll plug it all back in and we'll see if it works, shall we? Display. Ah, there it is. Found the plug. It's the speakers. It's not going to work without any speakers connected, that's for sure. Right. Now then, let's try it. See what happens, shall we? Power on. Clock is on. DAB radio. Don't expect anything from DAB radio. FM radio. Still nothing. Nothing at all. Oh, here we are. Yeah. Can you hear that? She's working. She's working. Let's try aux in. There you go. I'm not going to put your music on. I'm going to put Bill Bryson, A Short History of Nearly Everything. Really good, actually. I'm less likely to get a copyright strike if I put this on. And there's an additional one. It's called Our Island History of the UK by H.E. Marshall. Read by Anna Bentic and Daniel Philpott. Well done, chaps. Select CD mode. Reading CD. Please work. Right, as a sit rep anyway, it's working, but the volume control is very iffy. First it wasn't working, and then it worked, and then it gets louder, and then it doesn't do anything at all. And I think it's just control itself, because if you wiggle around and push on the button, you can get it to do something. So I'm going to have to whip the volume control out and have a look at it, because obviously it's been clocked or clobbered or something's happened to it and it's not happy. So you look, wasn't a reported fault on the unit, but it has been kicking around for a week or two. But I don't think it's come to any real grief. But who can say, hey? Who can say, walk past it and just gave it a good kick just for the hell of it. You know what employees are like. Not mine, of course, they're perfect, but yeah, I have been known to. So I'm going to whip the display out. Let's have a look at this. Have a look at this volume control and see whether it's a potentiometer or what it is. It goes around and around forever, so I'm assuming it's not. It's probably an encoder type volume control. But nevertheless, let's have a look, because if it was a potentiometer, it would go around and stop, wouldn't it? But it doesn't. But it's very, very intermittent. So something's wrong with the sensor. Either the LED's gone, or it could be the excitation circuit's not working. Who knows what it could be. If we find out what the spec of the device is, then we'll have a quick look. So the display is now out. Bloody hell, it's a simple display turning into, it's switch 10 it says. It's an encoder obviously. There's no wobbly, there's no click 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 feel, so it's a switch 10. There's no part number on it as usual. Yeah, I'm just going to open this up. I'm getting to the point where if I just pry those off there like that, I think the whole top piece will come off. We can see what's inside. Don't you think? Oh look, it's a mechanical encoder. Look at that. It goes round and round and you get a BCD or an encoding thing going on. Now it was working when I was pressing on the knobby bit, so presumably it's got a bit clagged up in there. Ooh. I mean, the connections to these connections, look at that. Look at that. You can see these connections here. I have to get closer up on that for you. Hold on a minute. Hold on a freaking minute. Yeah, look at that. You've got these hold a bit higher, you can see those three contacts. So give me something to point with. Pointy point thing. Pointy paintbrush. 1, 2, 3 little spring contacts for the encoder. Look how high they're sitting. And look at the main wiper for the common rail. It's actually sitting sub flush to the surface. So we just need to give that a little bit of tweakaroo, I reckon. Come on. Don't break it, Tony. There you go, so now it's proud. You see that? Now it's sitting proud, so let's just put it back together now. I think that was the cause. I'm not going to bother putting any switch cleaner on it at the moment because it looks pretty clean in there. Can I get those back in now? Gently. There we are. And squish them over. Squishing them over. Yeah, that's one. Squish two. Do you know, I bought these pliers when I left school at 16 in 1976. I bought these pliers on the tool club. I was repairing aircraft instrumentation, and it says 3935 German make on there. Can you see that? Can you see that? It's made in the Fatherland. But yeah, what a pair of pliers. Look at that. I mean, they're just like, you know, I've used them for inappropriate things as well. Not what you're thinking, but, you know, give them a good hot supper. Right, just crimp them down, crimp them down, crimp them down, crimp them down. Right, so I've noticed on this the CD doesn't work, and what's happening is the usual thing. You can see the CD head searching, but it can't find a disc because the laser has gone basically. So the laser is bollocks on it, and on most of these modern ones they don't actually turn. They don't turn the that's what I'm looking for. They don't turn the drive. And clearly that doesn't go in that way up, does it? It goes in the other way up, that way up. Wipe it off. Okay, so we're ready to go back together, and hopefully this time the volume control shouldn't give us any grief. Well, she's all back together, and now the volume control is working.
2 is so back to junction 9 as well.
So we have volume control, we have audio, so it's all working.
For a little while.
So the only problem with the machine now is the CD drive is not working, and the reason the CD drive is not working is because the laser is gone, and you can tell it's the laser because if you look at the back of the mechanism when you put the disc in and press play, you can see the actual focus mechanism on the CD pickup going up and down, but the disc does not spin, and it won't spin the disc, i.e. power up the motors that turn the drive spindle around, until it's actually managed to focus and get some reflection from the disc. That's how it tells if a disc is present, and it should turn the motor on. So there's no LED, the motor, so the CD mech is no good. It needs a new CD pickup head on it. I wasn't contracted to do that. I just fixed the audio, and I think I recall the customer at the repair cafe saying we don't really use a CD, it's the radio we use it for. So hopefully that's the case. If not, then you know there'll be a stage 2 repair, which will be to replace the CD mechanism, which are about £10 to £14 each, I think, a set. But if they don't need the CD, that's fine. So the volume control is fixed, the audio is fixed, it's all back together, so job done. Thanks for watching, and if you can do, just hit the button down in the corner of the screen, the subscribe titty button, and leave a like if you can. Hope you found that interesting, and good luck if you are repairing yours.